What is it about levitation that fascinates us? Tarkovsky would say it's about the miracle of love. Since the beginning of human history, we have looked to the sky for answers. Of course, it's about freedom, or the ecstasy of self-transcendence, or pushing our limits to achieve the impossible. But it could simply be about our impulse to rebel, or our wish to create our own reality. The more we are weighed down by gravity, the more we want to rise up. Rising up against all odds, even if it means crushing our necks against the ceiling, suffocating when we reach the height when there is no more oxygen. But we know for that split second, just before falling, we will find what we are looking for. Laura believes she can levitate. She believes that powerful magnetic fields are generated from the strength of collective will. She also claims to be a member of an activist group called Laden Raven. The delusions of Laura have been well studied. Experts agree that her psychosis was triggered by a disturbing dream loop in which she saw herself repeatedly falling to death. In a hypnosis session, Laura recalled how she learned to levitate after having visions of St. Joseph of Cupertino, the patron saint of students and cosmonauts. Soon after, Lauren became a great admirer of Yuri Gagarin. Gagarin was a Soviet cosmonaut and the first human to journey into space. It was a period when the Soviet Union enjoyed economic growth and soaring prosperity. Gagarin was a national hero, but he died when his fighter plane crashed. It was the year 1968. In the same year, films of Nina Kulagina levitating inanimate objects were shown at the first Moscow International Conference on Parapsychology. Her abilities made her a potential weapon in the Cold War interspace race between the Soviet Union and the United States. Kulagina's telekinetic abilities appeared after a psychic seizure. She saw the world turning into a strange theater where nobody knew what was true or what was fake. From then on, Kulagina is said to have stopped believing in external realities. She focused on developing her psychic skills so that one day she will have control over all shape-shifting truths. Founded by the great funambulist Fern Andra, Laden Raven was an anarchist group comprised of vaudeville performers from diverse racial backgrounds. These individuals were outsiders, marginalized by their differences. For Andra, levitation is a way of life, a balance between opposing forces. Levitation believers know they must tread carefully on that line between lightness and heaviness, between risk and safety. Their daring confrontation with danger is a defiant act against the state. Being in this liminal space is the only way to survive in the topsy-turvy world. Andra later became a film actress in Germany and brought Laden Raven to Europe. She introduced the practice of levitation to the experimental filmmaker Hans Richter, who in turn spread the idea to fellow artists in Paris. Laden Raven slowly gained popularity. Today, artists are still known to join the group. The rise of Leyden Raven owed much to the counterculture movement that flourished in the 1960s. The Youth International Party of the Yippies called for the making of a new nation by creating food co-ops, free clinics, and free schools. In 1967, the Yippies with 50,000 anti-war demonstrators marched to the Pentagon to levitate the building 300 feet in the air. They agreed to return it to the same spot.
We're going to assemble a mass of hooligans around the Pentagon. We're going to surround it with chanting and loud and drum beating, and the Pentagon is going to rise into the air.
Two years later, a new militant group called the Weather Underground was formed out of the disillusionment of nonviolent resistance. They conducted a bombing campaign targeting government buildings, banks, and a police monument in Chicago. Everything was carefully planned so that no one was hurt. How to sustain a mass struggle when peaceful actions fail and violent resistance risks losing public support? Perhaps both armed struggles and nonviolent actions could work together to complement each other. Lauren and other members of Leyden Raven decided to orchestrate and strategize in both directions so that the resistance could sustain a long trajectory to achieve systemic change. The 1970s saw the brutal suppression of all forms of resistance. Lauren remained in Leyden Raven. Many turned to the SLN Institute. Not only was SLN a refuge for radicals and intellectuals, it also provided trainings that explored human consciousness. Members of the group were convinced that self-transformation was now the only feasible pathway to bring about social transformation. Lauren was skeptical about SLN. She believed that self-transformation could potentially open the way for ethical and political agencies. But what if it leads to the overindulgence of the belief in self? What if this newfound confidence is merely an illusion that will one day turn into yet another weapon of disempowerment? In 1979, SLN began to work with the US government to establish the Soviet-American exchange program. They brought over cosmonauts, KGB agents, and Soviet politicians to take part in the Institute's spiritual workshops. Some even credited SLN as having a role in the collapse of the Soviet Union and the ending of the Cold War. we thought we had a chance. What goes up must come down. That's the sacred law of gravity. But now, we must quietly wait for our time to rise again. In the meantime, we will lie flat, eat dirt, and sleep.